There's a story there reported over the last few days, and it is the sort of story that I've seen reported time and time again over the last 20, 30, 40 years. And it's to do with rural Ireland, it's to do with land, it's to do with family members fighting and disputing over land or over wills or whatever. And I don't know whether it's a uniquely Irish thing, whether it's a historical thing going back to the landlord and tenant situation, the Brits ruling Ireland and Irish citizens, Irish people being, having to tug the forelock or whatever to the landed gentry, the British landlord, etc., and the whole landlord and tenant situation, whether it's a historical thing or what, I don't know. But it seems to me that repeatedly we have seen cases like the one that was reported last week, and cases that even worse than the one reported last week. The case to which I'm referring here is a case reported last week in Cork. A father and son have been remanded in custody after two other family members had to undergo surgery following an alleged attack. The court was told that the blood was up in a feud over property that has been ongoing for 14 years. 14 years. The father and son have been remanded in custody and they've been charged with assaulting two other family members in what Gardaí have said is a feud over property going on for, as I say, 14 years. Jerry Brennan Sr., he's 77 years of age, and his younger son, William, 31, have been charged with assault causing harm to Mr. Brennan's two older sons, Jerry Jr., who's 35, and John, who's 32. On August the 17th. Jerry Brennan Sr. was charged with possession of a knife and William Brennan was charged with producing a knife in the course of committing an offence. Jerry Brennan Sr. said that he didn't know why he was being charged, and he said he never assaulted him at all in response to being charged with assaulting Jerry Brennan Jr. Jerry Brennan Sr. says I didn't intend to conceal the pocket knife with all the excitement. So he's facing a charge here of being in possession of a pocket knife. William Brennan, then, of the same address, replied in relation to producing the knife in the course of a dispute, I did not do that, but if I did not pull the knife, I'd be dead right now. So on the one hand he's saying he didn't pull the knife, and on the other hand he's saying that if he didn't, he'd be dead. So you can draw your own conclusion as to whether he drew it or not. The knife was a hunting knife, he told the court. William Brennan replied that I was acting in self-defence or I would have been killed when he put the assault causing harm to John Brennan charge to him after caution. And William Brennan also replied, I was acting in self-defence or I would have been killed. This is the second time he attacked me and ended up in court. Gardaí objected to bail for both accused, and the Gardaí gave evidence that they believe the assaults had their origins in a long-running family feud involving Jerry Brennan Sr., his wife Jean Brennan, and their sons Jerry Jr., John and William over a farmhouse and yard at Ballyhalwick, Dunmanway, County Cork. So this dispute is over a farmhouse and yard. The agrarian dispute went back 14 years and 20 incidents had been reported to Gardaí over the past 5 years. Matters had escalated, unfortunately, in recent months, and Gardaí feared it would escalate further if the accused were granted bail, and the judge, I think, refused bail. He said that the guard said that the incident which led to the charges was the more serious escalation to date and resulted in Jerry Brennan Jr. suffering a severed artery in his arm, while John Brennan had suffered a punctured lung. They're the two brothers that were hospitalised. So the guard said that there was strong evidence against both accused who were arrested at the scene. Gardaí took witness statements, etc. Garda Maher was asked by the judge if the blood was up. He said it was. He told the judge that the flashpoint for all these incidents was the property at Ballyhalwick, which consists of a farmhouse, a yard and some sheds. Both Jerry Brennan Sr., a farmer, and William Brennan, an electrical engineer, took the stand to give undertakings that they would abide by any bail conditions imposed by the court, including giving an undertaking to stay away from the two injured parties who also live in Dunmanway. The judge said, though, he was going to refuse bail because of the seriousness of the charges, the strength of the evidence against both accused, and the fear that they might interfere with witnesses if granted bail. Both defendants were remanded in custody to appear again in Clonakilty District Court on August the 22nd for DPP's directions. But this is one case we have all seen over the years, cases where unfortunately there has been fatalities, there has been deaths, there has been killings, there has been shootings, and there has been all sorts of disputes and assaults, and it always seems to involve rural Ireland. It always seems to involve agricultural land or farmland. It always seems to involve a row or a dispute about over the land, who gets it, who gets to own it, who gets to possess it, and or a row or a dispute over a will which touches upon or deals with land. And funnily enough, I was just thinking about this, the disputes, and they are similar, and unfortunately they involve family disputes. They involve father against son, or brother against brother, or brother against or son against father. They all seem to be rural based cases. In other words, you don't very rarely see a case involving a similar sort of a fatality or a row or an assault involving, say, a 3-bed semi in Mullingar, or a house in Clondalkin or Drumcondra or Dublin or Cork or Galway or wherever. It always seems to involve farmland and agricultural land and farming or rural people. I don't know whether that's unique to Ireland or not. I don't know whether it's a historical throwback to the way that the country was governed one time and the way it's governed now, and the ownership of land, the ownership of interest in land and how it's been passed on, and the whole question of landlord and tenant and so on and so forth. But I'd be interested to hear your views down below as to why you think that these incidents crop up with regularity all over the country, especially I think in the south and southwest, but all over rural Ireland. There seems to be, from time to time, with some degree of frequency or regularity anyway, some degree of predictability, rows or disputes or killings or shootings to do with rural land, to do with farms, to do with farmhouses, sheds, rights of way, that sort of thing. I don't know, as I say, whether it's unique to Ireland and it doesn't happen in continental Europe, or doesn't happen in the UK. Maybe it does. Maybe we don't just hear about it. But I would have thought that if it happened in the UK with such frequency or regularity, that you would actually hear about it. But maybe it's just not reported. But I'd be interested in hearing your views as to why this happens. What I can't get my head around is a son or a father injuring or assaulting or killing a son or a daughter or a father or a sibling or a brother or a sister or a family member in a row over land. I can't get my head around that myself. But maybe you can. Maybe you come from a particular rural background. Maybe you have an affinity or a love for the land. Fair enough. But I can't see myself assaulting or killing or trying to kill a brother or a sister or a father, if I had one, from my father's deceased. But I cannot see how I could do it. I wouldn't be able to do it, quite frankly, in any row or dispute over property. I don't think it's worth it. I think it's ridiculous, quite frankly. But as I say, I can't get behind the rationale. The fact that I don't get behind the rationale and don't understand it doesn't mean that somebody else can't understand it. And maybe they do, maybe you do, maybe you'll be able to explain in the comments down below how this comes about. As I say, this isn't a once-off incident, this situation in Cork. And this situation in Cork, remember, is going on for 14 years and has seen reports to the Gardaí. A serious number of 20 incidents have been reported to the Gardaí over the past 5 years. So I mean, obviously there's ongoing altercations, as it were, or interactions between the parties that have been brought to the attention of the Gardaí. So you can draw your own conclusions about that. But I'd be interested to hear your comments. And is this unique to Ireland, or are we just like everybody else?